Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the market and transportation revolution that takes place in this country from about 1800 to 1840. This antebellum period is going to be a period of growth in a lot of different ways and a lot of important changes in the American landscape. You're going to see things like a growing national economy, mass European immigration, and the desire for transcontinental expansion. Along with this, though, are two of the more important ones, and that's going to be improved transportation and the rapid technological innovation that occurs in this country. New technology is going to allow for the north, south, and western portions of this country to develop specialized economies, and the improved transportation is going to help reduce travel time and cost to ship goods, which is going to help connect the country as a whole. We're going to start by focusing on the revolution in transportation that is going to occur. In 1816, Henry Clay develops his American system. We know that the American system deals with things such as the creation of the Second National Bank, the Tariff of 1816, but it also goes a step farther in helping to develop a system of internal improvements in infrastructure that will occur. Part of this transportation revolution is the development of roads, canals, and the early railroads that are going to help build America's infrastructure. The National Road is a good example of this. The National Road became the first federal transportation project in American history, and you can see it's going to tie the cities of Cumberland, Maryland, to eventually Vandalia, Illinois. The Cumberland Road, or what is also called the National Road by the time that is connected, is going to be the first major endeavor that we're going to have to try to help decrease shipping costs across the land. Along with this, you're going to see the development of turnpikes. Turnpikes are usually privately owned. They're going to be built by entrepreneurs and people hoping to make money off of it. It basically comes down to the fact that you need to pay a toll in order to get across a bridge. The bridge itself, again, is going to be made by an individual. The cost of it is going to be solely on that person, so it is really owned by that person, so he's trying to make money off of it. By 1832, nearly 2,400 miles of roads are going to help connect major cities, and the establishment of turnpikes, such as the Lancaster Turnpike in Pennsylvania, is going to make this a definite possibility in this country. Roads were useful, but they did not meet the demand for low-cost overland transportation. The Conestoga wagon, again, is still a horse-drawn or oxen-drawn wagon, not necessarily the fastest thing in the world to travel with. Therefore, if you have goods like farm goods that are perishable items, it is not necessarily the most effective and efficient way to get products brought from one place to another. We're going to have to look at other ways of transporting goods in order to get this to occur. The development of canals and steamboats is going to help connect the West and the East together. Mississippi and Ohio rivers helped farmers get their goods to the East, but there was no way to get manufactured goods to the West. Robert Fulton's invention of the steamboat helped connect the West with northern manufacturing, because steamboats provided upstream shipping, which reduced costs and increased speeds. State-directed canal projects cut shipping costs by over 90% between the West and the North. The biggest of these canals and most important of the canals for American society is the Erie Canal. The Erie Canal is connecting Buffalo, New York to eventually the Hudson River and Albany. Once you're at the Hudson River, you can take it downstream to New York City. So therefore, it's providing a huge market for these products. The steamboats and canals help stimulate commercial agriculture by providing for the free flow of manufactured goods to the West. In other words, you can take a good, you can produce the good in the North, and you can ship it to the West for very cheap cost, allowing these people to focus on their regional specialization and focus on the production of crops in the western areas. I mentioned the Erie Canal, very important to society. 1825 is going to be the first major link between the East and the West. The East, or the northern areas, is again the more industrialized area. The Erie Canal is in fact going to make New York City the commercial capital of the United States. You can see by this graph that the freight rates in this country to go across land, as well as other ways, are going to be decreasing in this time period. You can see upstream river rates are going to decrease significantly. A lot of that has to do with the development of the steamboat. Wagon rates are still the most expensive way to get a good from one place to another. It is not the most efficient thing. Yes, it may be the shortest distance between two areas, but is not necessarily the fastest way to get things. And as a result, it is also not going to be the cheapest way to get things done. Eventually, the development of the railroad and the expansion of the railroad is going to become one of the most important technological advances in U.S. history. The expansion of the railroad by region, you can see here, is significant, especially when we start dealing with reasons for the Civil War beginning, the sectionalism that occurs. But you can see that the North, over this 20-year period leading up to the Civil War, is going to take the significant role in the production of railroads. And that's something that the South is going to have to deal with once we start talking about reasons why the South will lose the Civil War. I hope I didn't spoil anything with that. In 1840, railroads began to challenge the canal's dominance. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that railroads are cheaper to build, and therefore more people are going to do it. It's going to help stimulate industrial and commercial agricultural growth in this country, and it's going to lead to new forms of finance such as preferred stock and state and local government subsidies being created. You can see by this map right here that by 1861, the number of railroads is just astronomical compared to what it was just 11 years prior. And the majority of the reason for this is that people are taking their own money and they're going to be investing it in railroads because there's money to be made. We're going to focus now on kind of the market revolution that's going to occur, and a lot of this has to do with the technological advances that are occurring in society. The antebellum era is going to see a boom in specialized staple crop and commercial farming. A lot of this is going to have to do with lower transportation costs in society, especially in the South. In the 1840s, American industrial production becomes more efficient. A lot of this is due to the numerous industrial innovations that have occurred, the growth in things like factories, demand for goods from farmers in the West and the South is also going to be a result of and cause in the division of labor in this country. You're going to see urbanization occurring in the North, the growth of major cities, and you're going to see the increase in staple crop commercial farming that will occur. A lot of the reasons why some of these staple crops really begin getting built or getting built up in society is the fact that there is going to be a number of new innovations. John Deere is going to produce the steel plow. The steel plow is going to help farmers plant things more efficiently in a quicker amount of time. Cyrus McCormick is going to come up with the mechanical reaper. The mechanical reaper is going to help harvest things in a more efficient manner, less waste, more wheat, more product being harvested at a cheaper cost. Samuel Slater is going to help create the factory system in this country. In 1815, 65% of all U.S. clothing was made by women at home in the cottage industry system. By 1840, textile manufacturing is going to significantly increase, especially in areas like New England. This is due to people like Samuel Slater and the development of the spinning jenny and the Lowell system in Massachusetts. Elias Howe and Isaac Singer are going to help create the first sewing machines, which are going to be very beneficial for the textile industry because now it is a more mechanical way of getting things done. Cheaper cost because it is more efficient to do so, there's less waste involved. Northern factories are going to begin mass producing textiles. They're going to mass produce farm equipment, other finished products as well, but textiles are going to be the big one. Growth of these factories is going to lead to the growth of major cities in this country. This is called urbanization, growth of cities, growth of urban areas. Lowell Mill is probably one of the more famous of these textile cities that are going to really develop. The Lowell Mill itself is going to house pretty much most of the employees that are going to work. You can see this picture is probably not of the time as there are cars in the image, but this is a good example of the Lowell boarding houses where they would house the employees. A typical profile of a Lowell girl, as they were called, is going to be young, single female. They're going to work long hours. They're going to work for not necessarily the highest of wages, but is a wage nonetheless. It's important to note, though, that only 9% of Americans are in fact involved in the manufacturing process. Therefore, you can definitely say that we are not an industrialized society yet. Most of the industrialization that is occurring, though, you can see by this image, is going to be occurring in the New England area. By 1840, Eli Whitney's interchangeable parts and other textile technology is going to lead to an industrial revolution in the North. The interchangeable parts are going to be very beneficial for factories because a part could break and they will not have to destroy the entire piece of machinery. Instead, they will just replace the one broken part. Samuel Morse is going to develop the telegraph in the 1840s and Morse code, which is going to help transmit information from one side of the country to another more efficiently as well as more quickly than ever before. And Cyrus Field is going to create the transatlantic cable, which is actually going to be laid across the ocean floor, so now we can communicate with Europe in the pretty much the blink of an eye versus 6, 7, 8 weeks on a ship. In 1793, Eli Whitney created what is probably one of the more notorious inventions of the time period, the cotton gin. It's going to make the refining of cotton much easier, and as a result, it's going to make cotton much more profitable. By 1820, cotton became the dominant cash crop of the Deep South. The spread of cotton, though, is also going to result in the increase in slavery and the plantation agriculture society in the South. You can see 1820, each dot represents 2,000 slaves. Most of them are going to be located and isolated in coastal towns. In 1840, it's going to grow a little bit more, begin spreading more throughout. And by 1860, the use of slavery is going to be completely widespread. And the majority of this is going to be due to the profitability that cotton had. Southern cotton was so important to the antebellum economy of the South that it became known as King Cotton. The South is going to provide 75% of the world's cotton. Southern cotton is going to stimulate the growth of northern textile industry, shipping, and marketing. If you're looking at a specialized role in American society at this time period, you'll see that the majority of specialization is going to be occurring in the New England area. Again, these are more industrialized areas. This is where the factories are going to be because the South is going to be focusing solely on agriculture. Same thing in the West. The West is going to be focusing on large farms. Also in 1860, just prior to the war beginning, you also see that the majority of the United States population is going to be living in the North. This is where the jobs are. This is where people are going to be crammed in. The urbanization is really going to take off here. With the growth of the American economy comes the growth in the American population as well. From 1840 to 1860, over 4 million Irish and Germans are going to begin immigrating to the United States. They're going to come over for all sorts of different reasons. A lot of it, though, has to do with the fact that they're going to be able to make more money over here than they ever would back at home. Land itself is very cheap, and the potato blight from 1845 until 1854 is going to bring over 1.5 million Irish immigrants. There's also going to be very low fares on transatlantic travel, making access easier for European immigrants to make it over to the United States. Immigrants are going to end up going in all sorts of different places for all sorts of different reasons. A lot of the immigrants are going to settle in New England cities because that's where the manufacturing base of this country is. They're going to become industrialized workers, working long hours, low wages, but it's still better than they would be dealing with back home. Farmers are going to come over. A lot of German immigrants and Scandinavians are going to come over. Traditional farming is going to be done. A lot of the farming for crops, corn, soy, things like that. In the South and the Southwest, you're going to see the growth of the cotton industry. Cotton farming is still a very profitable thing for these people, and cattle ranching. And then out west, in 1849, you have the gold rush hitting California, and a lot of people are going to come over for that reason. This vast pool of cheap labor is going to provide the United States with the fuel necessary for the Industrial Revolution of the 1850s. In the Lowell Mill, 4% of workers were foreign-born in 1836, but by 1860, over 62% of them are going to be foreign-born. In the 1840s, factory labor began to shift from American women and children to this immigrant labor done by men from other countries. With the increase of immigration in this country, you're going to see the increase in prejudice as well, especially when dealing with Catholics and Irish. And tension in the 1840s and 1850s is going to rise. Another thing that's going to emerge is this idea of something called nativism. Nativism is going to be the overt favoritism towards native-born Americans. They're even going to develop their own political party. The Know Nothing Party is going to be formed to help limit immigration and keep immigrant men from voting. Immigrants are going to be filling these low-paying jobs in northern factories or moving out west to become farmers. That's all I have for today. Thanks.